Being the spotlight is the place to network and chat with me. Being the spotlight is the place to chat with me. I'm Sue of Phonics ID.
Hello and welcome to Be in the Spotlight, and my guest today is Sandra Pyne from Jigsaw Phonics. Sandra, if you just like to tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and what you do, and then we'll have a little bit of chat about your tech journey.
Thank you so much for inviting me today. I run a membership for primary teachers and educators who have a special interest in tutoring phonics. So my job is really to help them transition from being in the classroom as teachers to working in their own businesses, often online. So the tech is very much top of our list today.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. I must admit, I've been following you for quite some time now, and there are some stuff I've got to ask you about the tech, preferably in particular about the mobile, but I won't go to that one at the moment. I want to actually start out about the overcoming the challenges that you actually face that most of us have when we start in a business. Many tutors struggle with the transition from teaching and running a business. So what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced with starting your tutoring business, and how did you overcome them?
I think for tutors or teachers thinking of starting a tutoring business, I think teachers are brilliant at overthinking. So the one thing, and I think it's on the one hand, it's a great thing, you think of everything from all the angles, which is a really good skill to have. But I think sometimes that can make you a bit of an overthinker. So one of the things I would say is just take some action, just do it. It's the one thing to think about it, it's the other thing to really take the leap. But if you are going to just take the leap, I think it's really important to get some help. It doesn't necessarily have to be paid help, although that is the shortcut to, getting what you want faster because you're learning from people who've been there and done that. I would say, and I think we talked about this earlier, get some specialist help for your niche. There is an awful lot of noise out there. There's an awful lot of generalist help there. So one of the reasons I started Jigsaw Phonics Tutoring, which is to help teachers, transition from the classroom to tutoring, is I'm helping primary teachers who tutor phonics. I'm not helping anybody else in particular. So everything that we do is very, very focused on that one topic. And I think that helps a lot. I think what you have to understand if you're moving from one phase of life into another is that you are going to be pushing yourself out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
And what I always think is, the interesting things grow out of your comfort zone. It might feel a bit scary to do it, but I think that's where the development and that's where the growth happens. And also, when you move from one thing into another, it's a rare thing that you're going to be an overnight success.
Yeah.
People are not going to beat a path to your door and, within 10 days you are going to be having 10k months or all those things that all that stuff that you see promised on social media. I think the trick is to be persistently consistent. You have to keep chipping away. You have to really enjoy the process, because it does take time to reach that tipping point where you go from starting out to really having a thing that goes. And I think you just have to be a bit like a dog with a bone. So keep going. A lot of people, I think, start out strong and they give up before they really should, because if they just kept at it a little bit, then it would come through in the end. So don't overthink, I would say. Get some help, get some support, paid, unpaid, but have some people on the journey with you. Understand you're going to be in some new and challenging situations, and just keep on going.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. I think I just want to also go back to one of the points you said. I love the persistently consistent. That is a brilliant one. I think that's going to be my phrase for today, persistently consistent. But the other one, as you said, about getting help, and you see a lot of things out there, pay for shortcuts to speed up the process. And I think although that is good, that it will help you to fast track, the only problem is that by doing that, you are cutting out the learning process of what it is that you go through to understand why you do it. And that was something I found myself, that I made mistakes, but through the mistakes that I've made is what I've learned and how you improve on it. So, and I think I mean, I did try listening to and doing things that people told me to do, but they actually didn't work for me. And I think that's the thing as well. If you are going to be paying for something and getting support, the support that you get is got to be the right support. It's pointless just joining something if it's not the right thing for you. So I think the fact that you said about yours being specifically for primary tutors and primary tutors that are transitioning from the classroom to becoming phonics tutors is so key. You're so clear on who you work for, who your target audience and who you help. And I think that is something that if people are looking at making that move and they want to fast track, they need to make sure that that support that they are getting is that right support. So that's brilliant. Well done. Thank you for sharing that with us.
You're welcome. And I think it's a really important question to ask yourself when you do want to do something, when you want to transition from one thing into business. Your question is, you know, what's my niche?
Yeah.
Who am I helping? And if you can niche into your niche,
niche,
you
the
can't
niche
be
of the
enough.
niche. Yeah, oh, tell me about the niching. So one of the things that I find is a lot in my area is about building confidence. It's building confidence to get back to work, look for even if it's paid or volunteering, but it's also coming in confidence with using technology, and all of the hurdles that they've got to overcome. How have you, in your work with the tutors, helped them to grow in confidence, particularly with using the new tools or techniques? And can you share a moment where you've had to overcome your own self-doubt in your career, and use that experience to shape the approach that you do with mentoring others?
Oh, lots of questions there. I think the first thing I would say is that mindset and confidence is at least 80% of what you do in your business. And it's why in my membership, the first module is called Mindset and Confidence.
It's a good place to start.
It runs through absolutely everything you do from the beginning, you know, when you even ask yourself, can I even do this? You know, and the confidence in your own expertise to set your pricing, you know, the confidence that you have in dealing with your clients, all these things. So building confidence is, I think, a huge thing, and it's not something that, you know, we should underestimate. And I spend a lot of my time reading, I think what in the olden days used to be called self-improvement books, you know, and listening to podcasts. So I think don't underestimate that aspect of your business. It comes under, for me, it comes under that category of what am I learning in my business? And learning is really often quite hard to quantify, I think, and work on your own mindset and your own confidence is really key. From my own point of view, I think because I do, in a certain sense, have to be the expert in my membership to help all the members out. But I would very much say sometimes that expertise sometimes to me just means being a bit further ahead than they are without knowing absolutely everything. And I would be the very first one to say, look, particularly with technology, I don't think I certainly don't feel like I ever use every technological tool that I've got to the very end of its capabilities. Quite often what I say is, well, this has got, you know, you can do all sorts with this tool, but it's enough at the moment for us to do this, and this will get the job done. Yeah. So sometimes just being a bit ahead of everybody else so you can show them the way, and also just hold your hands up and say, I am not any expert in this, but I can show you enough to make this, you know, work for you is my attitude to it. And I also think too, up to a point, and I experienced this with some of the actual tools I use, we are all beta testing everything for everybody at the moment because the tools themselves are constantly being updated, upgraded, renewed. So, you know, what used to work a while ago doesn't work anymore, or they've replaced this feature with that feature. So you can really never be on top of it unless you are the complete tech nerd, and I'm
No.
you know, all power to tech nerds, because they are the ones that get the bugs fixed and get everything sorted out, but that isn't me.
No, no.
But I have enough, so in my membership I have enough to set people up with their email marketing, there's
Yeah.
enough to set people up with their LinkedIn profiles, there's
Yeah.
enough to set people up with all the tools that I recommend they use,
Yeah.
and beyond that we'll figure it out, but actually quite often it's enough to get the job
It
done.
sounds such a great membership. Is there, if there was ever a membership that would want me to change what I do, it's your membership, I tell you.
You want to tutor phonics?
Tutor phonics.
I'm here for it.
It always takes me back to the days of when I was working in the primary school and my son learning, although I wasn't I was teaching IT at the time in the school, but it always reminds me of that. I just that time when I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy those days. So moving on. Talking about technology actually here. So technology has played such a significant role in our modern day education. How have you integrated the technology into the tutoring business, and what tools have you found that have been both most effective for both the teaching and business management?
I'll get a little bit specific with some of the tools here. Other tools are available. There are no affiliate codes involved here. But most tutors, I recommend most tutors, and I think most business people, run your business lean to begin with. It keeps your starting costs down. And what's so brilliant about so many of the tools out there is the free versions quite often do about as much as you need.
Yeah.
And you only need to upgrade if you really do start to have the most massive email list, or you know, all these kinds of things. So I think make the most of what you're paying for, understand what you're paying for actually provides, because you know, one thing that you're paying for might do the jobs that 3 other things would do that you're also paying for. I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And I would definitely say try and avoid shiny object syndrome. Speaking as somebody who has had a bit of shiny object syndrome and thought that would be a great thing that I can have. I'll get that, I'll get that, I'll get that. And then, you know, a year later you unsubscribe and stop paying for that and stop paying for that and stop paying for that. So I fell into that trap a little bit, thinking I needed more than I actually did. So what I recommend for the tutors in my membership is using Google for websites, because if you buy the Google Workspace, which I think is a very reasonable monthly amount, around 10, 11 a month, whatever currency you're in, I mean, it's not a lot of money. You get your whole website there. You have to buy the domain, obviously, but then you can link your domain up to your website. You get Google Sites. Creating a website with Google Sites isn't that much more difficult than editing a Google Doc. Very, very simple to use. What you can do then is completely bypass any kind of booking tool. So you can use Google Forms as your booking tool. And what I recommend is that you create a form if somebody wants to book you, if wants to book your lessons, and then you put your Stripe payment link, which is the online platform that you can use to take payments. Put the payment link in the confirmation message of the form. So once clients hit your website and they hit your form, they can book and they can pay all in one easy process. That doesn't cost you anything. You're not paying for extra booking software at all. And, you know, it really shows you who's really serious about working with you, because as soon as, if they can land on your website and they can pay you for your services in that very easy process, then that really works. The other tools I recommend that people use are MailerLite for email marketing. It's one thing that Google isn't great at, is emailing. And if you want the free version of Calendly, which is your call booking tool, you can use that, but you can also do the same thing with your Google Calendar and Google Meet. So again, with Google, you've got calendar booking and you've got a video conferencing tool included. If you want to use the free version of Calendly and the free version of Zoom, you could also do that. But I think sometimes what you want to do in a business is just keep it lean. You don't want accounts here, there, and everywhere. So this would also be an option. I've mentioned Stripe, which is one that we find very useful to take payments. It allows your customer to use pretty much any method of payment that they want.
Mm-hmm.
I very much like Loom, which is
Mhm.
another video tool, but what it allows you to do is to share your screen. So if you want to make how-to videos
Mm-hmm.
and you want to show people what you're doing while you're explaining what you're doing with you in the corner, that's
Mm-hmm.
one I like.
Mm-hmm.
And I like, for hosting my own membership, I like the Thrive Learn platform, which
Mhm.
comes as part of Thrivecart.
Okay.
And what I find just generally using technology is, again, it comes back to this idea of niching.
Yeah.
I like to use tools that do one thing well
Mm.
rather than bigger tools that do a lot not very well. And
Yeah.
that was an experience I had previously. I had one kind
Yeah.
of online platform
Yeah.
that was also relatively expensive, and it did
Yeah.
a lot of things, in
Yeah.
theory, everything under one roof, but it didn't do them very well.
No.
And I would much rather, you know, cherry pick those individual tools
Yeah.
that do things
Yeah.
very well. So that's really my advice. Use the free versions.
Yeah.
Don't pay for too much until you're really sure you need it.
Yeah.
And go for the tools that do one thing well.
Yeah, that is again really good advice. I love the way you've said that. I'm going to pick you up on a couple of the bits of software. So the fact that you're a Google girl, does that mean Microsoft doesn't feature anywhere in your business at all? Okay.
No.
What made you go for Stripe as opposed to PayPal?
I went for Stripe because it is very customizable.
Right.
I also do have PayPal. And Stripe works nicely in China, so you have to look at the
Okay.
regions that
Yeah.
your payment
Okay. Yeah.
process
Okay.
works.
That's good. That's a good one. I was going to say my experiences with PayPal was took me so long to try and get it set up, even with my son helping me. And it still didn't do what I was hoping for, so I gave up with it in the end. And the other one I wanted to pick up, oh yeah, Calendly, I definitely with you for the free version. I think I've used that, and MailerLite, and I used both of those as well. But the other one I wanted to ask you about, which you just mentioned, Thrivecart, I don't deal with, so that's not an area that I've had to use. Oh, sorry, my mind's just completely gone back. It was a question I was going to
Thrivecart, I
ask
can
you.
just dive in there and mention
Yeah.
Thrivecart's very good. I mean, it's not the only way of doing it, but if you are a kind of a membership or a community owner, and you would like other people to recommend what you're doing who are already in your community or in your membership, then it has quite a useful affiliate program.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. Oh, I see. It was Kajabi. Kajabi was one that I've heard of. It's not one I've used. Is that one that you've looked at before, or?
Kajabi is one of those all under one roof. And from the people that use it that I've heard from, I haven't personally used it, like it very much. But it's pretty expensive on the scale of things.
Yeah.
But I also know people who use Kajabi who use those other more specialist tools because they just do it better than Kajabi.
Right.
There is never going to be. I think it's very difficult to find that one tool that does everything under one roof.
I think, yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
Which is why my strategy is to kind of cherry pick the.
No, and I think you're right, especially when starting out, because that was the other thing when I was doing work before I went into what I'm doing now, and I was told I needed to have this, I needed to have that, I needed to have this, that, and the other. And when I started looking at how much it was costing, plus the insurance and everything else on top of that, it was like such a huge outlay before I'd even got any income, and I just thought I can't afford to do that. So everything I've just used the free versions of, including Canva, and that was the other program that I use an awful lot. But even with Canva, I had the paid version for about 3 months. I signed up with it, and I cancelled it because I felt for what I was using for paid version was no different than what I was able to do for the free, and I just sort of stopped using it. And I think that's the thing to think about, as you said, what it is you're doing. If you can get by to do what you need to with the free stuff, then do it. And with regards to the paid stuff, you'll often find there's a workaround that gets you enables you to do what you want to do, even in the free version. It might take a little bit longer, but if it means you can still get it done, then that's my motto.
I think that's the point. I would also say with Canva, if you go to canva.com/education, if you are a registered teacher and you can provide your credentials, they will give you Canva Pro for free.
Yeah, that's another one that I've only got, and that is actually for anybody that has got it, even if you are QTS or QTLS. I got the same email as well, so it's just one I haven't followed up doing, but that's a good point, that one there. Which moves on very nicely to our education now, and the future of ed tech. Given your experience, where do you see the future of educational technology heading, particularly in the tutoring industry?
I think I can answer that quite quickly. I think it's going to be hybrid learning, which is going to be curated, self-access, online elements with live lessons and potentially physical products as well, if that is relevant to your subject. I have some tutors in the membership at the moment who do a kind of a version of this, which is the live lessons, but also physical products that parents can order, you know, in order to support their children at home as well. So I think it's the mix. I think what we have these days is it is possible to get, you know, everything wherever you want it. It's all out there. But I think the real value comes in curating what students need to know. So creating your kind of own curriculum, because they just don't know what they don't know.
No.
So if you can create, you know, a self-access course, but they've still got you as a human being guiding them through it, I think that is just an incredibly valuable thing that we can do. And I think that's
I think you're right. I think you're right, because even with my own work, when I do my private work, it's one-to-one support, but there's always like material, something for them to work on and practice or to develop. So it's a little bit like the classroom experience with homework. It's sort of just it's what they need, you know, because it's what they're wanting to focus on. So I build the framework around what it is they've asked for, and then give them the situation to apply it or put it into practice. So which leads nicely on to the next question, which would be, what do you think that tutors should be doing or focusing on to stay ahead of the curve?
I think because, like I just said, everything is out there. You can get these days whatever you want. You just have to find it. I think if you're particularly tutoring, you have to niche. So you have to be positioning yourself as the go-to person. And I think you have to look at the customer that you've got. So I'm thinking particularly of my group who've got parents of primary school children. So the tutors are supporting the primary school children with the tutoring. But how can they support that other level of customer, which are their parents? They are the people who are paying. And how can they support them? And some of the tutors in my membership are starting to build communities for the parents, because I think that's often what people want. People want community. So it's, how can I serve the direct person I'm serving, but how can I also look and see what other needs they might have, or what other level of client I've got, and how can I support them?
No, that's really good. Yeah. And I think I know we were talking a little bit before we came online together about how you can help other people with what they're doing and getting ahead of that. And I think, yeah, look, it's how you can support people around you, but it may not be the people that you're actually talking with, but it could be the people that you're talking to, how they can help the people within their community. And that's so important. Which sort of brings me on to the next area that I want to sort of talk about. We've talked about the tech, we've talked about the challenges, but how do we go about setting goals? So what strategies do you recommend for tutors to set and achieve their business or educational goals? And how would you help to maintain motivation and keep them on track in their progress?
Well, inside my membership, we have quarterly planning sessions. So every 90 days, we sit down, we review how the last 90 days has gone. We have a look at what worked, what didn't work. We don't look at it in terms of success and failure. My philosophy when you're setting goals is take everything as information. So it's not that I failed, you know, it didn't work out quite as well, maybe as I wanted it to do. Why didn't it work out quite as well? How could I tweak it to make it work better? Or it just could be, if it didn't work, it could be a reason to just stop doing it. So it really just does depend on what it is. So that's how we do it. 90 days, I think, is long enough to see some difference, because if it's any shorter, you're not going to see a lot of change every month, for example.
No.
But it's short enough that you can kind of remember what you're coming back to in order to change it. So that's basically how we do it. I think one of the main things that I suggest when we do set those goals is to really chuck out as much stuff as you possibly can. I think focusing on more than 3 things is overwhelming. So what can you realistically do in these 90 days? And then shift everything onto the to-do list for the following 90 days. And then when you come back and you have a look at those 3 things that you've worked on, how relevant or not are they? Think about what you'd shifted, you know, for the next quarter, and can you work on those, and should you work on those? So it's a kind of a constant process of not really overloading yourself and just keeping, you know, 3 things in mind for
That is a
3 months.
really good advice there. I think the trouble is when we start putting our to-do list together, we end up with the list so long and we overwhelm ourselves and you think, where do I start? And it just gets procrastinated until we get to it. Yeah, it's one of those things I think is really sort of challenging, and how to overcome and master it. Continual learning vital in any profession that we're talking about it. How do you personally set and pursue your own professional development goals, and how do you encourage this mindset among your clients?
Me personally, I said before, I think mindset and confidence is 80% of what you're doing. So what I love about being in my own business is I can really pick and choose my own personal development. I think what you have to do though when you do this is also give yourself space to implement it. There's no point in, you know, rushing through a gazillion courses and then actually not doing anything with those courses. So I pick and choose quite carefully, and I'm doing a whole range of things at the moment. I did a lovely one-off workshop recently with somebody who's a copywriter about upgrading my LinkedIn profile. I'm going to be working with somebody on email marketing. I'm heading off to Warsaw to talk to another bunch of teachers about tutoring businesses. I've joined a kind of a mindset book club that, you know, where we'll be reading and discussing books on.
I think I've seen that one being advertised actually. Yeah, it did look really good, that one.
We can probably leave a link in the comments. Big shout out to Samantha.
I was gonna say that's one person I know who is literally everywhere. And I think to encourage that in the tutors, in the membership, I think personal growth, it really is a process. I think the key is to enjoy the process. That can be hard. That's easier said than done. I don't think if anybody goes into business to make X amount of money, that can get very old very quickly. Of course, you need to make money to keep your business sustainable. It's not like it's a dirty word or anything. But if you want to come into tutoring particularly because you think it's a get rich quick scheme, it absolutely isn't going to be. You can make a good living at tutoring. But you've got to really enjoy that process and be focused so much on the money making goal. That's I think really key. I think that there's 2 things that I've got that are above my desk is that always be amazing, believe in yourself, but also to love your job. And I think that is also something, you know, if you're going to be doing something, you want to do something you enjoy doing. And I say that with everybody. If you believe in yourself, you love what you do, that message comes across, and that's the sort of lights the fire. And I think it's that passion inside of you. We don't do things because, for me, it wasn't about the money or whatever. In fact, those ones are the ones that sort of put me off, really. But it's what you can do and how you're helping others, and that sort of, like you, learning. I sort of lifelong learning is the process from the cradle to the grave, and I just love learning. I love looking at things. I steered away from the one we just mentioned because I just thought I knew I wouldn't have time to do it, and it was going to be something that I would just add to my overwhelming with myself. But it looked really, really, really good, so I'd be definitely interested in hearing more about how you get on with that one. So talking about, again, our learning and development, can you share a success story where ongoing education has made a significant difference, either to your own career or a tutor's career?
I think the ongoing education for me personally was when I was a teacher in the classroom. And it was so clear to me that so many children had difficulties with reading and writing and spelling. And that really spurred me on to go on to do my level 7 qualification as a dyslexia specialist. And for the sheer, interest and love of that kind of work and that kind of subject. And then I think it gives you the confidence to help others, because you've kind of, again, you don't know everything, and I would never say I know everything.
No.
You get to be that one step ahead, and you can just say, right, been there, done that. This is what I suggest. It might not work, it might not be the thing, but at least give this a go, so you can become a good sounding board. I mean, sometimes you can solve it, sometimes you can't, sometimes you can be a good sounding board. And I think that's happened to a couple of members in my membership who got really interested in the dyslexia specialism and have, done a little bit more work with that, so that they can then start to, niche into their own niche, which is, I'm not just a phonics tutor and a literacy tutor. I'm also a specialist supporting children with dyslexia. So that's how they can position themselves as the all-important go-to, because, when there are lots of phonics tutors out there, and your child has a particular problem that you think could be on the dyslexia spectrum, then that phonics tutor who's niched and is saying, and I also support students on the dyslexia spectrum, they're going to be your go-to. They're going to be who you want to work with. So
no, that is such a good point, and it's going back to what we were saying earlier about the niche and the expertise. There's so many people out there offering something, and it goes the same with the interview process. So this is what I tend to say with the building confidence. When you're applying for jobs and there's so many out there doing the same thing, what is it about you that stands out about everybody else? What is your unique sales pitch? What is it that you can bring to the table that others can't? For me, the tip I always say is, well, think about the languages. You're speaking several languages. Now think of how that is a unique thing that you can bring to the table over other people. It's so important to pick out people who are experts in, or similar mindsets, and aligned to how you're thinking and what you're doing, because that's how you're going to get those results. If we're helping people to achieve, if somebody's talking the same language as you, then at least you're on the right pitch and on the right mindset. So sorry, I was just looking at me notes for the questions. Technology confidence, we've been talking about a lot of this morning. A lot of tutors might be hesitant about embracing technology fully. How do you help them to grow in the confidence with adopting the new tools and the different platforms, and what mindset shifts are necessary in order to do it?
I think, like everything that seems overwhelming, break it down into smaller steps. If you feel like you've got to master Calendly, Zoom, Google, all of them, don't try and do all of them all at once. Just break it down into smaller steps and say, I'm really going to take my time to have a look at whatever it is, whichever one it is. And then, the overwhelm, you take the overwhelm out. I think there are some people who just, for whatever reason, if they do find it continuously overwhelming, go to somebody who can help you. And in my membership, we do actually have a tech person who will build your website if you don't want to do it.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. So sometimes people just say, it's just not my thing. It's just not my area of expertise. So just pay somebody to do it for you. I mean,
Yeah.
and then the problem is solved.
Mm.
I think the mindset shift, that was the second bit that you asked.
Yeah.
It comes back to what we talked about right at the beginning. You know, when you get started on something new, if you move from your job into your own business, you are going to be pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And I, personally speaking of me, I'm very much that generation that had a very analog childhood, and I'm having a very digital adulthood. And I think that's just how it changes. And sometimes I really think if I could do it, then anybody can do it. You know, I didn't grow up with this stuff.
No.
I was in my 30s before I had my first mobile phone.
Yeah.
You just did everything by post. I remember, you know, yeah, I'm I feel like such a dinosaur when I say this, but it's true. And I think, you know, if you can just kind of move with it, get curious about it, figure out how it works. And to be honest, my experience of the tech is it just gets easier to use. If you're quite careful, you know, like I said before, don't choose the great big complicated thing. I chose the great big complicated thing, and I just felt constantly lost in it until I realized and thought, I'll just switch to this tool that does this, this tool that does this, this tool that does this. And that was my way of breaking it down into smaller steps to avoid the overwhelm. And
no, it's such good advice there. I mean, for me as well, I feel that I was the same generation as you, I think, growing up in very much an analog world. And I think that the first job was, here's a computer, there's a book, read it, work out how to use it, because we don't know. And that was my introduction to it. I think, with regards to what we're learning and what we're doing with the technology, it is lifelong learning, and you never know everything. There is always something to do. And in my area, teaching digital skills, people always think digital skills, digital marketing. No, digital skills and digital literacy is understanding what you need to do to get on and to be able to use the tech. But it's always been about, you know, gone with the days of just doing Microsoft and teaching Microsoft to sort of now it's Microsoft, it's Google, it's Apple, and I'm teaching all of it. And it's not just on the computer, it's on the iPhone, or it's on the phone, it's on the tablet. So I've sort of made myself use all of those technologies to try and get to them, as you say, but taking a bit at a time. But I've always found, and I always use, people laugh, why do you have so many computers on my desk? Because one is Windows, one is Google, one is Apple, to do it that way. But I must admit, there was one area I did feel that I was lacking in, which was the Android phone system. So we got a phone this weekend to actually tackle that area. So the learning goal now is on that one system. I had it before, I didn't get on with it, and I thought so many of the people I'm working with are using that phone. So I've decided, I took the bull by the horns. I'm going to go back there, and I'm going to do it. I can do everything else with Google, but let's tackle the Android operating system. So yeah, it is about shifting of a mindset. It's overcoming those negative self-doubts and pulling it forwards and moving forward. So I've got to ask you, Sandra, we've talked a lot about your journey, we've talked about the challenges, we've talked about continuous learning. What is going to be the next direction? What can we look forward to for you for coming to the end of 2024 but going into 2025? What is a future for Jigsaw Phonics and Sandra Pyne?
I think that comes back to that other thing, doesn't it, in your business of what is your why? And that's, I think, a very important question. And my why has always been helping children to read. That's the tagline of Jigsaw Phonics Tutoring. And the way I help children to read these days is to put some, I think, and I hope, some very nice materials, because the membership comes with a curriculum of ready to teach phonics lessons with all the assessments and the reports and everything for a wraparound tutoring service, put that into the hands of very capable, very passionate, very skilled, very talented teachers, and watch them support more children learn to read. And that's what's happening. And they are learning to read not just in the UK, but in countries around the world. So it's always a big thrill to see the Jigsaw Phonics characters dotted around the globe, and lots of children learning to read with Jigsaw Phonics.
Brilliant, brilliant. There was one question I said at the start of the session that I said I would come back to. That isn't a question I prepped you for, but it is you and your journey. And when I say the journey, it's the journey on the road, how you are able to combine a passion for traveling with a passion for learning and a passion for teaching. So can I just ask you to share what is something I saw from you last year, was how you take your show on the road, because it amazes me how you do it. And I think this is something that showcased you and your tech and how you use tech so amazingly.
Oh, run a business from a camper van, which I've done a lot. Yeah, but you know what? If you have got an internet connection and you have got a computer, you can do it. And this is just the brilliant thing about working online. And it's the brilliant thing about the tutors in my membership who tutor online. They go on holiday, but they can still fit in some tutoring sessions if that's what they need to do. Their clients go on holiday, but the parents still want tutoring, so they fit in the tutoring sessions. They do it in different countries. They go to the beach. They do it, you know, this is just the most freeing thing, I think, that whatever setup we've got, if you're working online, which is what all the tutors in my membership do. One is just moving to another country, but she's of course taking her work with her because she's online. It's just the best thing. So you can do what I do and run a business out of a camper van if you want to travel, or you can go to the beach.
Oh, I was going to say,
I'm not saying it's all 10k months on the beach sipping wine. This is not what I'm saying.
But it just shows you that anything is possible, and that, I think, for me was the ultimate. Oh my God, she's on holiday, on the road, traveling, you know, and anything is possible, you know. And we're joking about the 10k months, but you don't, you know, as long as you've got enough to cover the travel and the transport cost, you know. It's just, you know, it's just amazing. I know before you did show me behind the scenes, and I was absolutely blown away with it. But it was amazing. I've said to the other half on several occasions, he wants to get a camper van and he wants to travel. So we both set up, when we officially retire, we're going to get the camper van and we're going to go traveling. And I said,
trick at some point, I think.
And I said, we can look at what we can do as well, you know. If Sandra can do it, we can do it. So.
I think it's more electric. I think you're going to have all the power in the world to keep charging your computers. It's going to be even more possible.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Excellent. Sandra, you've been absolutely amazing to talk to today. Thank you so much for coming and joining us on the show, and sharing your expertise. Anybody who's watching, if you've got any questions for Sandra or myself you would like to put to us, I have got an email address that you can reach us on, and anything that you send through I can forward to Sandra. So the email address is beinthespotlight@gmail.com. So any questions or anything you want to find out about, pop them in that email, and then I will forward it to Sandra, and she can answer it for you. I think there was a couple of things that we talked about, so whether we'll try and put some sort of prompts or something pack that people can get to ask us about after the interview if they want to find out more. We do it, and as I said, Sandra is Jigsaw Phonics, so if you want to know more about her membership, definitely put the questions and send them to
jigsawphonicsmembership.com, and on the contact page you can book a call with me, you can send me an email, you can follow me on all the socials. It's all there.
She's all over the place as well, definitely not literally, but on social media you'll find her on all of the platforms. So thank you ever so much, Sandra, and guys, we'll speak again and see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Be in the spotlight is the place to be. Network driven business technology. Be in the spotlight is the place to be. Tech talk tips for free.